The Anderson mansion on the Upper East Side of New York City was decorated like a luxury magazine showcase, a 4-meter Christmas tree covered with ornaments imported from Switzerland that cost $20,000, gold lights everywhere, a dining table that seated 20 people with Italian linen tablecloths, baccarat crystal, solid silver cutlery. The feast was arranged like a royal banquet: stuffed turkey, ham, truffle stuffing, rice with Portuguese chestnuts, French desserts, everything prepared by a private chef who charged $5,000 just for Christmas Eve. It was December 24th, 9 p.m. The entire family was gathered for the traditional Anderson family Christmas dinner. And Caroline Stevens, 26 years old, a nurse, engaged to Lucas Anderson for a year, was sitting at the end of the table feeling smaller with each passing second. She wore a simple dress she had bought at a department store for $50, the most expensive she had ever bought in her life, but compared to the designer dresses Lucas's mother and sister wore, it looked like a dishcloth. Her hair was simply styled, tied in a bun. No jewelry except for the engagement ring Lucas gave her, a modest ring compared to the diamonds shining on the other women's fingers at the table. Caroline felt every glance, every poorly disguised whisper, every veiled comment about how she didn't fit in that setting. Before continuing with this emotional story, subscribe to the channel to always receive special stories like this one, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. So, Caroline, Victoria Anderson, Lucas's mother, said with a cold smile that didn't reach her eyes, "Lucas told us you work as a nurse. How noble." There was poison in the word noble, as if Caroline were a charity project. "Yes, ma'am. I work at New York Presbyterian Hospital, emergency department. How stressful, dealing with that type of people. Poor people, sick people. It must be very difficult. It's rewarding. Helping people is my calling." "Calling," Victoria repeated, as if the word were a joke. "How romantic. But it doesn't pay the bills, I imagine." "It pays my bills. I live within my means." "Modest means, certainly." Lucas, sitting next to Caroline, touched her hand under the table, a supportive gesture. But he said nothing, didn't defend her, just stayed quiet while his mother subtly humiliated her. Lucas's father, Robert Anderson, owner of a luxury car dealership chain, joined the conversation. "And your family, Caroline? Where do they live?" "My mother lives in the Bronx, works as a seamstress." "The Bronx," Victoria repeated, exchanging a meaningful look with her husband. "Far. It's her home. It's where I grew up." "And your father?" "He passed away when I was 12. My mother raised me alone." "How tragic. It must have been difficult, financially speaking." Caroline felt anger growing but stayed calm. "It was. But my mother is a strong woman. Worked hard to give me an education, to give me opportunities." "Clearly," Victoria said, looking at Caroline's dress with poorly disguised disdain. "Modest. Opportunities." Lucas's sister, Isabella, 23 years old, who wore a $10,000 Dolce & Gabbana dress, laughed. "Mother, don't be cruel. Not everyone can have our standard of living. Some people need to work in public hospitals and wear department store dresses." "I'm not being cruel," Victoria defended herself with false innocence. "Just making conversation, getting to know our future daughter-in-law better." Caroline looked at Lucas, hoping he would say something, anything, but he just ate in silence, avoiding eye contact, as he always did when his family attacked her. They had met a year ago at the hospital where Caroline worked. Lucas had gone to visit an employee from his father's company who had been in an accident. They talked. He asked for her number. They started dating. At first, Lucas hid her from his family. "They're complicated," he said. "Better to wait for the right time." But after 8 months, when he proposed, he had to introduce her, and it was a disaster from the first meeting. "Is she suitable?" Caroline heard Victoria ask Lucas after the first dinner. She was in the bathroom, but the door was ajar. "She's a nurse, Lucas, a public hospital nurse. Think of the scandal." "I love her," Lucas replied, but his voice was weak, without conviction. "Love fades. Money doesn't. She has no money, no family, no connections. What does she bring to this union besides? What? Mediocre beauty." Caroline left the bathroom before hearing Lucas's reply. She didn't want to know. She was afraid of what she would hear. Now, 10 months later, at the Christmas dinner, nothing had changed. The family still despised her, and Lucas still didn't defend her. "Well," Robert said, wiping his mouth with a linen napkin, "let's make a toast. To Christmas, to family." And he looked significantly at Lucas. To wise decisions. Everyone raised glasses of French wine that cost $2,000 a bottle. Caroline raised hers too, feeling a lump in her throat. That's when Victoria dropped the bomb. Actually, she said, placing her glass on the table with more force than necessary. I need to say something. Something I've been holding back for months. Tense silence at the table. Lucas, you're my son. My only son. And I love you. But I cannot, in good conscience, support this marriage. Caroline felt her stomach sink. Lucas went pale. Mother, no, let me finish. This girl, she pointed at Caroline without looking directly at her, is not suitable for our family. She doesn't have the proper education, doesn't have refinement, doesn't have money, has nothing that justifies you tying your future to hers. Victoria, Robert interjected, but without much conviction, maybe this isn't the time. It's exactly the time. Christmas is about family, about protecting our own, and I will protect my son from making a huge mistake. Caroline stood up, legs trembling. Excuse me, you don't need to be excused, Victoria said coldly. In fact, I think it's better if you leave. This is a dinner for family, and you are not family, and you never will be. Mother, Lucas finally shouted, that's too much. It's the truth, and you know it. You know she's not for us, for our world. She's poor, Lucas. Works in a public hospital earning peanuts. She'll drag you down. Caroline felt tears burning but refused to cry in front of them. Wouldn't give them that pleasure. Lucas, she said, voice surprisingly firm, either you defend me now or it's over. I won't stay where I'm not welcome, where I'm not respected. Lucas looked between Caroline and his mother, and Caroline saw it. Saw the exact moment he chose comfort, chose money, chose family, not her. Carol, maybe it's better if you do go. Everyone is stressed. We'll talk tomorrow. It was like a stab wound. Caroline took off her ring and placed it on the table. There's nothing to talk about. It's clear. You were never strong enough to choose me, and I was a fool to think you would be. Carol, don't make a scene. A scene? Your mother kicked me out of Christmas dinner, called me inadequate, and you did nothing, just agreed. I didn't agree. Your silence was agreement. Your cowardice was a choice. Caroline grabbed her purse and coat. Isabella was filming everything with her phone, laughing. Victoria had a triumphant smile. Robert looked slightly uncomfortable but said nothing. And Lucas just looked at his plate. Caroline left the mansion. It was 9:30 p.m. on Christmas Eve. The streets were empty. Everyone at home with their families, and she was alone, completely alone. She took the bus because she didn't have a car, back to the Bronx, a 2-hour journey across the empty city, and she cried for believing in Lucas, for thinking love would be enough, for being so naive. She arrived at her mother's house at 11:30. Mrs. Martha, 58 years old, was watching midnight mass on TV. When she saw her daughter enter crying, she got up immediately. What happened? And Caroline told her everything, between sobs, Victoria, insults, Lucas not defending her. The ring left on the table. Mrs. Martha hugged her daughter tightly. He didn't deserve you, never did. And that family, that rotten rich family, doesn't know the treasure they lost. Why am I never enough, Mom? Why does being poor make me less than others? It doesn't. To good people it doesn't. But to people like them, all that matters is money. And you, my daughter, are rich in things money can't buy. Character, kindness, courage. I don't feel courageous, I feel humiliated. You feel it today. Tomorrow you'll feel strong. Because you survived. Because you didn't bow your head. Because you left with dignity. Midnight struck. Christmas officially began, and somewhere church bells rang. Caroline was on the old sofa in the small living room of the humble house, hugging her mother, when the doorbell rang. 12:10 a.m. Who would ring the doorbell at midnight on Christmas? Must be a neighbor wanting to borrow something, Mrs. Martha said, getting up. But when she opened the door, it wasn't a neighbor. It was a man of about 70, impeccably dressed in an expensive suit, with a driver behind him holding an umbrella, even though it wasn't raining. He carried himself like someone used to commanding, penetrating blue eyes, perfectly combed white hair. Good evening, he said with a voice that carried natural authority. I'm looking for Caroline Stevens. I was told she lives here. Caroline stood up, confused and alarmed. Who are you? My name is Edward Vanderbilt, and I came here because I need to speak with you, urgently. Edward Vanderbilt? Mrs. Martha repeated, pale. The Edward Vanderbilt? Owner of Vanderbilt Holdings? He smiled slightly. Yes, I see my reputation precedes me. Caroline knew who he was. Everyone in New York knew. Edward Vanderbilt was one of the richest men in the United States. Billionaire. His empire included construction, technology, hospitality. He was practically the king of New York. What? What do you want with me? Caroline asked, completely lost. May I come in? It's a long conversation. And important. Mrs. Martha, still in shock, moved away from the door. Of course, sorry for the simple house. Houses aren't simple or complex. They're homes. And from what I see, this is a home full of love. That's more than most mansions I've visited. He entered, followed by the driver who stayed at the door. He sat on the old sofa as if it were a throne. Caroline, he began, I know what happened today at the Anderson house. Caroline felt her face heat with shame. How do you know? I have my ways. It doesn't matter how. What matters is I know. Know you were humiliated, kicked out, disrespected, and I came here to make a proposal. What proposal? Edward leaned forward, eyes gleaming with something Caroline couldn't identify. I want you to marry me. Absolute silence. Caroline was sure she had misheard. Excuse me. I want you to marry me. Tomorrow, or as soon as possible. A real marriage. Legal, official. But you don't even know me. And I'm 26. You're 72, I know. Big age difference, but I'm not asking for love. I'm asking for business, for mutual convenience. I don't understand. Edward sighed. I'll be direct. I'm sick. Cancer. Terminal. Doctors gave me 6 months, maybe less, and I need to get married before I die for legal reasons. Will. Inheritance. A complicated family that wants to steal everything I built. And why me? Because I saw what happened today, and I saw courage in you, dignity. You didn't cry in front of them, didn't beg. You left with your head held high. That's rare, especially in someone so young. But marrying you, what would I get? Everything. When I die, and it will be soon, you inherit half my fortune, $2.5 billion. The other half goes to charities. My family gets nothing because they're leeches, but you'd be rich. Richer than the Andersons. Richer than most people in the United States. Caroline couldn't process it. This was madness, had to be a prank. Why would you do this? Why would you give me $2.5 billion? Because I need a wife for the will to be valid, and because I want it to be you. Someone who will use the money for good, not for empty ostentation. I saw your history, know about the donations you make, the volunteer work. I know you're a good person, and good people deserve to be rewarded. This is insane. It is, but it's real, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Marry me, keep me company in my last months, and when I'm gone, you'll have enough money to never be humiliated for being poor again, to help your mother, to make a difference in the world. Mrs. Martha, who had been quiet until then, spoke. Honey, you don't have to accept if you don't want to. Money doesn't matter. Your dignity matters. Your mother is wise, Edward said, and she's right. You don't have to accept. But think, in 6 months, you'll be a widow but rich. You'll have power. You'll be able to look Victoria Anderson in the eye and show her the poor woman she despised is now a billionaire. Revenge isn't noble, but it is satisfying. And that decided it. Not the money, not the comfort, but the idea of showing Victoria, showing Lucas, showing everyone who had despised her that she was worth more than they ever imagined. I accept, Caroline said. I'll marry you. Edward smiled for real. Excellent. My lawyer will come tomorrow with the papers. We'll marry the day after. And then, he made a dramatic pause. Then we'll go to the Andersons' Christmas dinner. What? Victoria Anderson hosts a second dinner, on the 26th, for friends and business partners. And I've always been invited but never went. This year, I'll go, with my new wife. And it will be interesting. Caroline felt a smile forming for the first time in hours. It will be. But before discovering what happens at the dinner, leave your like here on the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon. What do you think will happen when Caroline appears as the billionaire's wife? Tell me which city you're watching from. Now let's continue. December 26th, 2 days after the humiliation. Caroline was in Edward's walk-in closet, which was the size of her entire old apartment, choosing a dress for the dinner. Not just any dress, a dress of war. This one, said Fernanda, the personal stylist Edward hired to transform Caroline's look. She held up a blood-red Chanel dress. Red is power. It's revenge. It's look at me. It's perfect, Caroline agreed. In the last 48 hours, her life had been turned upside down. They married in a private courthouse on the 25th, a quick but legal ceremony. Caroline was now officially Caroline Vanderbilt, wife of the richest man in New York. Edward kept all his promises, put $2.5 billion in an account in her name, accessible after his death, gave her a credit card with no limit, moved her and her mother into one of his mansions, provided lawyers to create foundations in her name. "You will outlive me," he said while they signed papers. "And when you do, you'll be prepared. You'll have money, structure, protection." "Why are you doing all this?" Edward looked out the window, lost in memories. "Because when I was young, I fell in love with a poor girl. Humble, beautiful, and my family. My family did exactly what the Andersons did to you, humiliated her, kicked her out. And I wasn't strong enough to defend her. I let her go, and I've regretted it every day since." "What happened to her?" "She died, 10 years later, in an accident, never married, never had the life she deserved. And I built an empire but was never happy, because I let the love of my life get away due to cowardice. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, just promise me. Don't let this experience destroy you. Don't let the Andersons steal your joy. Use this money, this power to do good, to be happy for me, for her, for you. I promise." Now wearing Chanel hair and makeup done by top-tier professionals, Caroline looked in the mirror and didn't recognize her reflection. She looked like a princess. No, she looked like a queen. "Ready?" Edward asked from the doorway. He was thinner. The illness was progressing quickly, but he was smiling, excited. "Ready." They arrived at the Anderson mansion in a Rolls-Royce. The driver opened the door, and when Caroline stepped out, photographers hired for the event because the Andersons loved to show off their wealth started snapping pictures. "Who is she?" someone whispered. "Edward Vanderbilt's wife. He got married, I can't believe it. She's gorgeous, that dress, but must cost a fortune." They entered together, Caroline's arm in Edward's. And Caroline saw it. Saw the exact moment Victoria noticed them. Saw the shock, confusion, and then recognition. "Caroline?" Victoria was pale. "What? What are you doing here?" "I came with my husband," Caroline said calmly. "Edward, this is Victoria Anderson. We know each other." "Ah, yes," Edward said with a dangerous smile. "The lady who kicked my wife out of her dinner 2 days ago. I heard the story, fascinating." Victoria turned red. "Wife? You? You married?" "We did, day before yesterday, on Christmas. While you were celebrating your exclusive dinner, we were celebrating our marriage." Lucas appeared. When he saw Caroline, he froze. "Carol? Hello, Lucas. Or should I say, ex-fiancé Lucas. You're with Edward Vanderbilt." "I am, as his wife. Mrs. Vanderbilt, if you prefer formality." Edward squeezed Caroline's shoulder lightly, a gesture of support. "My wife told me about your family, about your interesting hospitality. I must say, I'm disappointed. I always thought the Andersons were classy people, but kicking a young woman out of Christmas dinner for being poor, that's not class, that's cruelty." Robert Anderson approached, obviously nervous. Edward Vanderbilt was a legend. He was a man who could destroy businesses with a phone call. "Mr. Vanderbilt, there was a misunderstanding." "There was no misunderstanding. There was deliberate cruelty, but it doesn't matter. Carol is with me now, and she doesn't need your approval, or anyone else's." Isabella, filming everything with her phone as she had done the other night, looked shocked. But she's a nurse. Poor. How did she marry me?" Edward finished. "Because I saw in her what you couldn't see. Character, kindness, strength, things money can't buy. You have money, not much compared to mine, but you have it. But you don't have class. And that, my dear, shows." Embarrassed silence. All the guests were listening. The gossip would spread. The Andersons humiliated a poor fiancée who became a billionaire's wife. Delicious scandal. "Carol," Lucas finally said, his voice broken. "Please, can we talk? Privately." Caroline looked at Edward, who nodded slightly. 5 minutes, she said. They went to the library. Lucas closed the door behind them. "What have you done?" he asked, and there was accusation in his voice. "Me, what have I done? You let me be humiliated. Your mother called me inadequate, kicked me out, And you did nothing. I was going to defend you, was going to talk to her afterward. Afterward, Lucas, you had the opportunity right there in that moment, and you chose silence, chose comfort, chose her instead of me. Because she's my mother, because family is complicated, and I was supposed to be your family too, or was I going to be, because it seemed like I would just be an accessory, something you kept separate from your real life. So you got revenge? Married a billionaire to hurt me? Caroline laughed without humor. You think everything is about you? Edward offered me an escape, offered me dignity, offered me the respect you never gave me. And yes, I married him, not for revenge, but for myself. You don't love him. No, I don't. Just like you never truly loved me. If you had, you would have defended me, would have chosen me over your mother's approval. Carol, please, I love you. I made a mistake, but we can fix it. You can. You can annul the marriage. We can start over. No, because even if I annulled it, which I won't, you haven't changed. Your family hasn't changed. And I have changed. I saw what I deserve. And it's not you. You're doing this for money. No, I'm doing it for dignity. The money is a bonus. They returned to the party. Caroline on Edward's arm, Lucas behind, defeated. The rest of the night was sweet revenge. Caroline circulated, talked to guests, many who recognized her from the news. The new Mrs. Vanderbilt, congratulations. Edward introduced her to everyone as my brilliant wife, nurse, and philanthropist. Victoria avoided them all night. Isabella stopped filming. Robert tried to pull Edward into a business conversation but was politely dismissed. I don't do business with people who mistreat others for social status, Edward said simply. It was a public declaration, in front of everyone. And it meant the Andersons were socially finished, because if Edward Vanderbilt rejected them, others would follow. When they left, it was past midnight. In the car, Caroline allowed herself to relax. Thank you, she said. For what? For giving me this night, this revenge, this power. Edward held her hand. It wasn't revenge, it was justice, and you deserved it. But Carol, don't let revenge consume you. Use the power you have now to do good, to prove you're better than them, not by being richer, but by being a better person. I'll try. And about Lucas, it's over. Truly over. I realized today he never loved me. Not really, he loved the idea of me, the humble woman he saved. But he didn't love me enough to fight for me. Then he lost a treasure. 3 months later, Edward worsened rapidly. The cancer was in its final stage. He spent most of his time in a hospital bed set up at home, and Caroline took care of him, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Because in the last 3 months, Edward had become a friend, a mentor, the father figure she never had. You know, he said one day, voice weak, when I proposed marriage, I thought I was doing you a favor. But you did me a favor, gave me company, affection, family. In these last months, I've been happier than in decades. Don't say it like that. It sounds like a goodbye. It is, I'm afraid. Doctors said it's a matter of days. Caroline held his hand, tears streaming. I don't want you to go. Neither do I. But I have no choice. But Carol, promise me something. Anything. Live. Really live. Don't spend your life hiding in mourning or revenge. Find love. True, real love. Someone who defends you, who chooses you, who deserves you. I promise. And use the money for good. To make a difference, I know you will, but I need to hear the promise. I promise. I'll create foundations, hospitals, schools. I'll honor you, and that girl you loved. I'll be what she could have been if she'd had the chance. Edward smiled, tears in his own eyes. You are a gift. In the last days of my life, God gave me a gift. Thank you. Edward Vanderbilt died 3 days later, peacefully, with Caroline holding his hand. He was 72 years old. He left $2.5 billion to Caroline, $2.5 billion to charities, and nothing to his distant family, who appeared trying to contest the will. The funeral was huge. Half of New York showed up, including the Andersons. Victoria approached Caroline after the ceremony. You must be happy, rich, young widow, $2.5 billion. Caroline looked at her, without anger. Just pity. I'm not happy. I'm in mourning. I lost a friend, a mentor, someone who treated me with more kindness in 3 months than your family did in a whole year. You sold yourself for money. No, I married for respect. The money was a consequence. But you wouldn't understand, because for you everything is about money, status, appearance. And for you it isn't? Now that you're a billionaire? No. For me it's about legacy, about making a difference, about proving that being poor doesn't define me. My character defines me, and your character, Victoria, is rotten. All the wealth in the world can't fix that. 1 year after Edward's death, Caroline created the Vanderbilt Foundation, dedicated to scholarships for poor students, to hospitals in underserved communities, to women escaping abusive relationships. She donated half the inheritance, $1.25 billion, to the foundation, kept the rest for herself and to ensure the foundation would always have resources. And she met someone. Robert, not Lucas's father, another Robert. He was a doctor at New York Presbyterian Hospital where she worked. They had crossed paths before, but only started talking after she returned as a volunteer. "You came back?" he asked, surprised. "I thought after everything you'd never come back." "Why wouldn't I come back? I love this work, love helping people. Money doesn't change that." "But you're a billionaire, you could do anything. And I choose to do this. This makes me happy, makes me feel useful." They started meeting for coffee after shifts, talking about patients, about life, about dreams. "You're different," Robert said after 3 months. "All the rich people I know are distant, but you're still real. Because money didn't change me. My situation changed. But I'm still me. And who are you?" "Caroline Stevens, seamstress's daughter, nurse, widow, philanthropist, and someone who's learning she can be happy again." "Are you?" "I am. With you." 2 years after Edward's death, Caroline and Robert got married. A simple ceremony. In the church in the Bronx where Caroline grew up. Guests were family, friends, hospital colleagues, no millionaires. No ostentation, just love. Mrs. Martha cried with happiness. "This one is different," she said. "He loves you for real." "He does. And I love him. Not for money. He doesn't have money, but he has character, integrity, respects me." Edward would be happy. He would, because I kept my promise, found true love, and didn't let the experience destroy me. 5 years after the humiliation at the Christmas dinner, Caroline was at her foundation when she received an unexpected visit. Lucas. He looked different, thinner, older, deep dark circles under his eyes. "Hi," he said, voice hesitant. "Lucas, what are you doing here?" "I came to apologize. It took 5 years, but I need to." "Why? After all this time?" "Because I'm in therapy, working on myself. And my therapist said I need to make amends, need to acknowledge the harm I caused." Caroline invited him to sit. "Go ahead then. I was a coward. When my mother humiliated you, I should have defended you, should have chosen you. But I chose comfort, chose money, chose not to disappoint my family, and I lost you. Lost the best thing I ever had in my life." "Yes, you did. And seeing you grow, your foundation, your marriage, your happiness, while I'm still stuck in a toxic family, in a life I hate, in the choices I made. Why don't you leave? Why don't you change?" "Because I'm not strong like you. You left, you rebuilt, you won. I just gave up." Caroline felt compassion, not love, not attraction, but human compassion. "Lucas, I accept your apology, but not for you, for me, because carrying anger doesn't serve me. But know this, you need to save yourself. No one will do it for you. Not me, not your family, not your therapist. You. I know. Thank you. And congratulations for everything you've built, for who you've become. You deserve it." After he left, Robert came in. "That was him? The ex?" "It was. He came to apologize. And I accepted. And I realized I don't feel anything anymore. Not anger, not love, just nothing. He's the past. You are the present." Robert kissed her. "And the future. And the future." 10 years after the fateful Christmas night, Caroline was at a foundation gala. The event raised $20 million in one night. Millions that would go to scholarships, hospitals, shelters. During her speech, she said, 10 years ago I was kicked out of a Christmas dinner for being poor, for not being suitable, and that night I cried, felt I wasn't enough, that I never would be. But at midnight the doorbell rang, and an extraordinary man offered me not just money, but dignity, respect, a chance to prove my worth. Edward Vanderbilt gave me a gift, not the inheritance, but the opportunity. The opportunity to show that wealth doesn't define character, character defines wealth. And today, 10 years later, I use the resources he left to help others. Others who have been despised, ignored, told they're not suitable. Because everyone deserves a chance. Everyone deserves respect. Everyone deserves dignity. And to the family that kicked me out, thank you. Because you freed me to find my true path, my true worth, my true happiness. Revenge would be focusing on you, on proving something to you, but I don't need to, because I've built a life I love, with people I love, doing work I love. That is the true victory. Not money, but peace, purpose, love. Applause echoed, and in the back of the room Caroline saw her, saw Victoria, aged, alone, looking with something that seemed like regret. But Caroline didn't feel satisfaction, felt only peace, because she had won, not in a war of egos, but in the more important war, that of becoming the best version of herself. And that night at home with Robert, with their 2-year-old son sleeping in the next room, Caroline thought of Edward. "Thank you," she whispered into the nothing, "for saving me, for showing me my worth, for giving me more than money, for giving me myself back." And she knew with absolute certainty that wherever Edward was, he was smiling, because she had kept her promise. Not just to give money, but to give something more precious, hope, purpose, proof that birth doesn't define destiny. Character does. And that, in the end, was worth more than all the billions in the world. Comment down below, "Dignity wins," to let me know you made it to the end of this video, and I'll mark your comment with a special heart. And if Caroline's story moved you, I have another even more surprising one to share with you. Just click on the video that's appearing on your screen now, and I'll tell you everything. A big hug, and see you at the next emotional story. Bye-bye.